In 9.3c, we're going to continue completing the square, but some of these will just have a little bit more to them for simplification and things like that. So remember, completing the squares when we figure out what we add to this expression so it becomes something we can factor into a binomial square. So I'm going to bring down the x squared plus 8x plus, and I'm going to put a little blank here to remind me that I'm about to complete this square. Okay, now remember, when you complete the square, you think, what do I add to get 8? Or 8 divided by 2 is 4. So this is 4 plus 4. When we complete the square, 4 times 4 is 16. So I add 16 to complete the square. If you add 16 to the left side, you have to also add it to the right side to balance your equation. Now, if we did this correctly, the left side now factors into a binomial square. Since it's x squared, I'm going to put an x. 4 times 4 is 16. And since it has to add up to 8x, it must be a positive 4. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add up the right side of the equation. Negative 7 plus 16 is 16 minus 7, which is 9. Okay, now that it looks like this, I can solve using square root. I'm only rewriting this step so it looks separate than the last one. You can square root on the previous step. Okay, I'm going to square root. Square root. The square root cancels the squared. I get x plus 4 equals the square root of 9 is 3. But I know when I square negative 3, I also get 9. So I'm going to include positive and negative 3. I'm going to go ahead and solve for my x value. I'm going to subtract 4. X equals, and then I should get two solutions because this was quadratic. So the first one is positive 3, subtract 4. So 3 minus 4 is negative 1. And then my second answer is negative 3 minus 4, which is negative 7. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and complete the square on the next one as well. Okay, so just like the last one, I know I see this x squared minus 4x, and I want to complete this square on it. I'm going to bring it down, but there is something in the way. Okay, to complete the square, I'm filling in that blank there that will make it into a perfect binomial square. But if I look at the original problem, I had x squared minus 4x, and then I had this plus 6 that I don't want there. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel the plus 6 to the other side. Okay, now on the right side of the equation, 7 minus 6, I have 1. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and complete this square just like I did on the last problem. Okay, I'm going to think about what I add to itself to get 4, or negative 4 actually, but or 4 divided by 2. If I do 4 divided by 2, I get 2s, because 2 plus 2 is 4. If I do 2 times 2, to complete this square, I'm going to add 4. If I add 4 to the left, I add it to the right. Now, if I did this correctly, now this will factor into a binomial square. Since it's x squared, I'm going to put an x here. To get 4, it was 2 times 2, so I'm going to put a 2 here. And then because it has to add up to negative 4, it must be minus 2. So minus 2 plus minus 2 makes minus 4x. I'm going to go ahead and add up the right side. 1 plus 4 is 5. And then I can solve this using square root, just like we've been doing for quite a while. Okay, square root. Okay, the square root of 5 is irrational. Does it simplify? No, it's just 5 times 1. So I'm going to leave it as square root 5. But remember, it could be a positive and a negative square root 5, because when I square negative 5, I also get positive 5. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write my answer, or solve for x, and know my answer is going to have square root 5 in it, and that's okay. Okay, I canceled the minus 2 with the positive 2 when I write my answer. I normally put the rational part first, which is the positive 2, and the irrational part second. It can be the other way, but it's just most commonly written this way. So for my final answers are x equals 2 plus the square root of 5, and my second answer is x equals 2 minus the square root of 5. Let's do a couple more, and then I'm going to have you try it on your own. Okay, I'm going to complete the square again, because that's what the directions told me to. So to complete the square, I'm going to have x squared plus 6x, and completing the square is filling in the blank. Okay, in this case, the 2 is in the way of where I want to put the blank, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 2 to the other side. Okay, now there is going to be 13 minus 2. There's an 11 on the right side. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and complete the square. To get 6, that's 3 plus 3, or I did 6 divided by 2 is 3, which means if I do 3 times 3, this should be a 9. If I add 9 to the left, I must add it to the right. And then again, if I did this correctly, this will now factor into a binomial square. Since it's x squared, I'm going to put an x here. To get 9, it was 3 times 3, so this must be a 3. And then for it to add up to 6, it must be positive 3, because positive 3 plus positive 3 is positive 6x. Okay, on the right side, 11 plus 9 simplifies to 20. And now I'm going to solve it using square root, making sure that I simplify my answer. Square root, square root. Square root cancel the squared, so x plus 3 square root of 20. That's irrational. But it does simplify a little. Now, if I do 2 times 10, that's not helpful because I can't square root 2 or 10 evenly. Let's do 4 and 5. If I square root 4 times square root 5, I can square root the 4. So I'm going to get 2 square root 5 as my simplified radical. But remember, it could be positive and negative because if I square a negative, I also get a positive. Okay, now my answer is going to have 2 square root 5 in it, and I'm okay with that. But I still need to solve for x, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 3 off this side. And then when I write my answer, we normally put the rational part first and the irrational part second. Okay, and then this is my final answer. I cannot add these together because this is 2 radical 5 and this is just a 3. It doesn't have a root 5. If it had a root 5, I would absolutely add it together. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, I'm going to complete the square. X squared minus 14x plus blank equals negative 9. Okay, now to get 14 divided by 2 is 7. So this is 7 plus 7. 7 times 7 means 49 is what I need to add to complete this square. Okay, remember, if I did this correctly, this will factor into a binomial square. So x times x is x squared. 7 times 7 is 49. To get negative 14, it must be minus 7 plus minus 7. Okay, if I add up the right side, negative 9 plus 49. 49 minus 9 is 40. Okay, now I'm going to solve using square root. Okay, the square root cancels out the squares, so I get x minus 7. 7 equals this. Let's see, the square root of 40 is irrational. Does it simplify, though? Let's see, if I do 5, 8. No, I can't square root 5 or 8. If I do 4 times 10, that's helpful because the square root of 4 is 2. So I'm going to make this positive and negative 2 square root 10. Okay, remember, if one part's irrational, my answer is going to have that irrational part. So I'm going to go ahead and solve this. For x, I get x equals, I'm going to put the positive 7 first and the positive negative 2 root 10 second. And remember, this is 2 answers. This is 7 plus 2 square root 10 and 7 minus 2 square root 10. And I cannot add them together because this 7 does not have a square root 10. For me to add them together, they would have to both have the same radicand. Okay, try the practice problems. When you finish, check your answers.